Welcome back, everyone. If you love figuring out the hidden, kind of sneaky mechanics behind your everyday decisions, well, you are in the exact right place. Let's just dive straight into this explainer because today we're unpacking a hyper-relatable scenario that I can almost guarantee you have lived through. We are looking at a psychological phenomenon known as the Diderot Effect. More specifically, we're going to answer one big question. Why does one single purchase trigger 10 more? Let's set the scene. Picture this. You decide it's finally time for a tiny, minor upgrade in your living room. You buy one new couch. It's a super simple, seemingly innocent purchase, right? You found a great deal, it's exactly the style you wanted, and you bring it home feeling pretty darn good about yourself. You just bought one couch. That's the whole story. Or is it? Because almost overnight, this strange little shift happens. You look down, and suddenly your rug, which, by the way, you've happily walked on for 3 years without a single complaint, looks incredibly cheap and faded next to the crisp, pristine fabric of that brand new couch. So, naturally, you run out and replace the rug. Boom, problem solved. But wait, now that you've got this sleek new couch and a modern rug, your perfectly functional curtains, yeah, they completely clash. And actually, now that you mention it, your coffee table looks like it belongs in a college dorm. Flash forward 3 weeks, and you have somehow magically spent $4,000 redoing a living room that, honestly, a month ago you thought was totally fine.
It begs this absolute core question. Why did one purchase turn into 10? I mean, think about it. You didn't plan any of this. Nobody forced you to spend this money, yet your wallet is completely drained. Look, this isn't just a quirky flaw in your personality. This is a deeply rooted psychological trap known as the Diderot Effect. And I promise you, once you see it, you're going to realize it has been quietly running your bank account for years.
So let's get into it. Section 1. The Scarlet Robe and the Origin of the Spiral. To really understand how this trap is set, we have to travel all the way back to the year 1765, to a brilliant but completely broke French philosopher named Denis Diderot. A friend gave him a gift, a truly beautiful, incredibly expensive scarlet dressing robe. He absolutely loved it. But there was a catch. Almost immediately after hanging it up, he started noticing that everything else in his study looked terribly shabby next to it. And the irony here is just painful. This brilliant thinker loved his gift so much that within weeks, he started replacing his mismatched chairs. Then he upgraded his old desk, then the worn rug. One by one, he went deeply into debt just trying to make his entire study worthy of the single fancy robe. It got so bad that later in life, he literally had to sell his personal library just to survive. Diderot actually sat down and wrote an essay about this exact experience. He was basically waving a giant red flag to the rest of history, warning us with this really powerful thought. He wrote, "My new possessions are now in tyranny over my old ones." And wow, does that single sentence capture a profound truth about our modern spending habits perfectly. Which brings us to section 2, why brains hate inconsistency, or the psychology of the trigger. Okay, so how does this actually work under the hood? Let's deconstruct the cognitive mechanics here. The Diderot effect is essentially what happens when acquiring a new possession creates a spiral of consumption to fix mismatched items. And the most absolutely crucial thing for you to understand right now is that this is not a willpower problem. It's a brain wiring problem. It's not really about the couch or the scarlet robe or the latest smartphone. It is entirely about identity. You see, every single object you own tells a quiet little story about who you are. When you introduce one new item that suddenly doesn't match that established story, your brain doesn't just see a mismatched object. It actually sees a violation of what psychologists call the consistency principle. This is our deep psychological drive to keep our possessions, our behaviors, and our self-image perfectly aligned. When one piece is out of sync, your brain registers an inconsistency, and that creates a low-grade discomfort. It's not an agonizing pain or anything, but it's this persistent, annoying itch that nudges you toward a solution. And capitalism and the retail world have trained us to believe that the absolute fastest way to resolve that itch, to buy our way back to a coherent story, is simply to buy more things. Context effects demonstrate exactly how this plays out in real life. Just think about how an object's appearance depends entirely on what's around it. An old lamp sitting next to an old sofa usually looks perfectly fine. They belong together, right? But you take that exact same old lamp and put it next to a brand new sofa, instantly it looks dated. It looks cheap, but nothing about the physical lamp actually changed. Only the comparison changed. Your grain is no longer judging the lamp on its own merits, it is judging it against its shiny new neighbor. And believe me, marketers have known about this little wiring glitch long before Diderot ever gave it a name. They literally manufacture this exact discomfort on purpose. It's the whole reason furniture is bundled and sold as collections rather than single pieces. It's why phone accessories are perfectly color matched to the newest model, making your old charger look ridiculous. It's why starter kits conveniently exclude that one vital necessity that you're immediately going to have to go back and buy. The entire retail industry is architected to trigger this specific inconsistency, and then, incredibly conveniently, sell you the cure. Section 3. The invisible financial bleed and how it eats your income. When we look at the real-world financial impact of this, it becomes so clear why it's dangerous. Because the Diderot effect rarely looks like one giant, foolish purchase. Instead, it builds in a classic chain reaction. Step 1. You work hard, you get a promotion. Awesome, congratulations. To celebrate, step 2, you buy a slightly nicer car. But suddenly, sitting in that nicer car, your everyday commute clothes feel glaringly underdressed. So, step 3, you upgrade your wardrobe so it matches the aesthetic of the car. But now those new tailored clothes make your old wristwatch feel entirely wrong. So, step 4, you buy a new watch. This right here is the exact anatomy of lifestyle creep. It's that slow, upward drift in spending that quietly devours your hard-earned raise before a single cent of it can make it into your savings. And here is the real kicker. When you look at those decisions in isolation, not a single one of them looks irrational. Upgrading your wardrobe for a new role, that makes sense. Getting a reliable car makes sense. Because of that, this pattern never actually feels like overspending while you're in it. It just feels like maintenance. It feels like you're simply finishing a perfectly reasonable project that you already started. But over the course of a year, thousands of dollars just vanish from your bank account to chase a feeling of consistency that a marketer designed you to chase. Section 4. Breaking the cycle. How to outdesign the effect. The good news is you are absolutely not helpless here. Now, you can't really out-willpower a deeply ingrained psychological effect, but you can out-design it using a simple 4-step framework. Number 1 is easy. Just name it in the moment. The Diderot effect loses a massive amount of its power the second you consciously drag it into the light. When you catch yourself thinking, well, I guess now I need new curtains too, just pause and say it out loud. This is the Diderot effect. Breaking that automatic, unconscious chain is literally half the battle. Number 2 is crucial. Install a mandatory 30-day cooling off rule. Any purchase that is directly triggered by another purchase gets put on a 30-day waitlist. And this isn't about punishing yourself or saying you can never ever buy the matching curtains. It's just about giving that manufactured, artificial urgency enough time to fade away. If 30 days pass and you still genuinely want the item, hey, it was likely a true desire. But I promise you, most of the time, the itch just completely disappears. Number 3, you must budget for the after effect. Before you make a major purchase, you have to look at the true cost. If you think a couch is just $500, you're only looking at the planned cost. You have to ask yourself honestly, what is this new item going to make me want to replace next? Knowing that the true cost might actually be $3,000 completely changes your decisions up front. And that brings us to the final step. Curate on purpose. You have to deliberately decide what upgrading actually means for you, rather than letting the store decide for you. Dennis Diderot lived the rest of his life half embarrassed by the scarlet robe that started his financial ruin, all because he let one single object quietly write the rules for everything else he owned. Remember, your wealth doesn't usually disappear in one giant dramatic explosion. It drains away in 100 small, reasonable-feeling purchases triggered by this exact invisible trap. So I want to leave you with a challenge as we wrap up this explainer. Look around your space, take a look at your recent spending, and ask yourself this. Who is writing the rules of your life right now? Is it you consciously making choices, or is it simply the last thing you bought? Think about that for a bit. And hey, if you want to keep mastering the psychology behind your money, make sure to catch our next explainer.